everybody. So for today's video, I decided I wanted to tell the story of the worst roommate I've ever had. She literally killed my cat, and that's not clickbait. I was dating this guy, we'll call him Andy, and he had a best friend, we'll just call him Gary. Now Gary had this awful girlfriend named Ursula. Now when I met Ursula, I could tell she had this huge crush on me, and even Andy told me she wanted to sleep with me, and I'm like, no, not really my thing, but whatever. But the deal with Gary and Ursula was that they were swingers, so they were constantly hooking up with other people all the time. But I wasn't into her like that. I made sure she knew in a nice way, but I don't think she really understood all the way. Now, me and Andy couldn't afford the place we were living in, so we needed to move, and they offered to let us move in with them, which was incredibly sweet of them. But they lived with Gary's 69-year-old grandfather, and then they had a 5-year-old daughter, too. And they came to help us move, and we packed up all my stuff and my little kitty cat that I was obsessed with, and moved in with them. Now, Gary and Ursula, they didn't work. They didn't think they had to. They felt like the universe owed them something. They thought they should just get everything for free, so they just lived off of his grandfather and expected the grandfather to take care of their child for them. But they lived with Gary's 69-year-old grandfather, and then they had a 5-year-old daughter, too. And they came to help us move, and we packed up all my stuff and my little kitty cat that I was obsessed with, and moved in with them. Now, Gary and Ursula, they didn't work. They didn't think they had to. They felt like the universe owed them something. They thought they should just get everything for free, so they just lived off of his grandfather and expected the grandfather to take care of their child for them. And living with them was pretty fun. We hung out all the time. It wasn't bad to live with them. They just weren't very good people. And I'm the kind of person that I don't like drama at all. So I kept the peace. I just did what I needed to do and didn't really play into any of the drama. But a few months after we moved in, there was some drama that started between Andy and Gary. Now keep in mind, they had been friends since they were toddlers, so they knew each other their entire lives. I don't remember what the fight was about, how it started, but they started fighting really bad. Now, me and Ursula, we still stayed friends. We talked all the time, but things between Gary and Andy were getting so bad that we felt it would be best if we moved. And so we moved in with Andy's sister, who I went to middle school with, and she hates me. I don't know why, don't know how it started, but I'm just like, whatever. But she hates me. But we moved in with her, and I couldn't afford my kitty, so Ursula, being my friend still, offered to take her and take care of her until I could afford to take care of her on my own again. And now keep in mind, they had a dog and cat of their own, and they couldn't even take care of those animals. The food, the litter, everything they had, they stole. That was their huge thing, was they loved going to any store they could go to and just stealing as much as they could. And so at the time we lived with his sister, me and Ursula were still friends. We talked all the time, even though most of the time she was trying to sleep with me. But we talked all the time, and we made it our goal to get Andy and Gary to be friends again, which didn't seem like a very easy thing to do, but we wanted to try. They had been friends their entire lives, and it was just awful that they weren't even talking. So it took about a month, but we finally got them to hang out and talk, and it was great. And Gary and Ursula and the grandfather and the child were moving. They got kicked out of the place they were living in, so they were moving. So we'd go over and we'd hang out and we'd help them move, play card games. We loved Cards Against Humanity, and that was pretty much what we did. And then we found out that Andy's sister and her boyfriend and kids were going to move to the town that we had moved out of, and we really didn't want to move back there. So Gary and Ursula decided to let us move in with them again. Probably not the best idea in the world, but we really didn't want to go back to that town. And so we moved back in with them, and at first it was great. It was amazing. There was no drama, no fighting. We hung out all the time. But Andy had this other friend. Let's call her Red. And she's the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life. I'm in love with her so much. But Ursula got a little bit jealous that I had this new friend and I wasn't spending as much time with her anymore. So me and Red, being the nice people we are, decided to invite Ursula and Gary out with us one night. We went to the strip club, which was pretty fun, and we got drunk and had a blast. And we loved hanging out as a group. Red has a boyfriend. My boyfriend decided he didn't want to come with us, so it was just the 5 of us. And we had so much fun that night. So we get home, go to bed. The next day, we find out that Ursula's cat got my cat pregnant. And that's when everything started. She then decided that my cat wasn't mine anymore. Even though I could afford her now, I was taking care of her now, she decided that my cat wasn't mine. And many people had heard her say that the cat was mine and that I could have her back, and everyone, at least 5 people heard this. And she just wanted to say that she never said it, that it never came out of her mouth. And so I started getting a little angry. You know, my pets are like my children. Don't come between us. But I still tried to save the peace. It was hard, but I dealt with it. And then the cat had her kittens, and me and Ursula got along for that short bit of time to be there for the cat and everything. And even Red came over and, you know, saw the kittens, and everything was fine. Now, we kept the kittens in the basement in my room because so the male cat didn't hurt the kittens in any way. Well, Ursula, super jealous about that. She hated every minute of it because in her mind, I was spending all the time with the cats when really I wasn't. They just did their own thing and I pretended they weren't there, but she got super jealous. So she decided to move the cats and the kittens up to her room. Bad idea. She just locked them in her bedroom all day, all night. They never left, hardly ever fed, just torture. So now her cat, it was an outdoor cat, an inside and outside cat, and he hadn't come home in a real long time, quite a few days, and he always came home to eat. And so they got a little worried, so they went out to look for him and found him eaten by something in the neighbor's yard. And so then she decided no more cats for me, so she took my cat and kittens to the pound. Not even, I offered to pay her money for that cat and she just didn't want anything to do with it. So she took them to the pound. It hurt me incredibly, my poor little kitten. And now keep in mind the kittens were way too young to be away from their mom, and this was my cat's first litter of kittens. And it's just awful. And so then one day Ursula gets up and decides she wants the cats and the kittens back. So she goes to the pound. The kittens are naturally all gone. And so she gets the cat back. Well, this cat is a completely different cat, not the same cat she took to the pound. The cat had all this emotional abuse she had just gone through, and now she hated Ursula. She hated everything about her, so she would just stay in my room all day. Once again, Ursula didn't like that. And so she decided, and I quote, she said, "I want to take the cat back to the pound and trade her in for a new one." She's not a car. You can't just trade an animal in for a new one because you don't like the way that one's acting. So I once again offered her money to keep the cat, and she didn't want me to have the cat. So the cat was downstairs in my room. I had 3 people barge into my room while my boyfriend was at work, destroy my room, throw things everywhere, attack the cat to get her, and then leave to the pound. They were gone a few hours, And then they finally came back home with a new cat. And I was downstairs minding my own business. I had been crying. I was on the phone with my boyfriend. Things just weren't good. And so Ursula decides it would be a good idea. I'm minding my own business. I'm not anywhere near her. She decides it would be a good idea to yell down to the basement to me. And she said, "You know you love that cat so much. Well, she's dead." That was the end of it for me. That was the end. Now, I don't know how the cat died. I don't know if she killed the cat. I don't know what happens. All I know is that she killed my cat. So a few days later, we decided it would be best if we moved. So we moved in with Red and her boyfriend. And I lived with them up until I left the state and moved. And it was amazing to live with them. Best experience ever. My best friend in the entire world. It was amazing. But Ursula would still try to get in contact with me. So me and Red were drinking one night, and I started getting these Facebook messages. And it was from a Facebook I didn't know. And so the Facebook kept saying that my boyfriend was cheating on me. And that all these personal details about us and stuff. And I didn't believe him. Naturally, I knew it was her from the way the text sounded, but I kind of just blew it off. Well, she decided after that she would start messaging me after I moved out of state. I was all the way across the country at this point. She decided it would be a good idea to keep messaging me on her Facebook, trying to get at me, trying to start drama, calling me names, just being rude. And me being the person I am, I didn't feed into all the drama. So when I wouldn't fight back with her like she wanted me to, she would block me. And then it would start. A couple months later, she'd do it all over again. Well, luckily I haven't heard from her in about a year now, so I'm pretty happy about that. The sad thing is, she convinced Red to not be my friend anymore and kind of just turned her against me. So I didn't just lose my cat, I lost my best friend too. And it's just awful. She brainwashed Red into hating me. So now me and Red aren't friends anymore. They're besties. And I'm kind of just across the country living my own life while this person is miserable, doing nothing, living off of other people for the rest of her life. It's just kind of funny to me. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed my story. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment down below telling me what you want to see next.